possibly right, but you know, I'll tell you frankly, I've been involved in, I'm telling my age now, folks, I've been involved in politics in the Commonwealth of Virginia for over 50 years. And I think I know a little bit about politics. And I would think that if I were given a chance to discuss my position in front of my constituents, that I would be pleased to do so. And so I want to make sure that if they have walked in and I didn't see them or somebody didn't notify me, that they have every opportunity to answer the questions. Because that's exactly what we intended for them to do and for them to have a chance to do. So we're going to go ahead and ask the questions that were asked for them. Mr. Griffith being here and being willing to share his views with the voters in the district will have a chance to comment. And I'll point out that all of these, this is the first time I have seen any of these questions, knew anything about them, and they were strictly written out at the table out here by you people. I don't know who did them, but this question is for Boucher. Will you vote for Pelosi again for Speaker? I'm not going to say it's Mr. Boucher here again, but that's the question for Mr. Boucher. Now, Mr. Heaton, if he were here, would be allowed to give a 1-minute reply to that. And he not being here, Mr. Griffith, do you have a reply?
The word included again, I would never have voted for Nancy Pelosi for Speaker.
You know, it's really a shame that we don't have some supporters for Heaton and Boucher here who could at least clap with, for their answers. But at any rate, Mr. Boucher's question having been finished, we now have a question for Mr. Griffith. Mr. Griffith, how do you stand on the proposal to give $250 to Social Security recipients?
The proposal would be to give like a one-time $250 stipend or bonus, as has been done, I think, once before.
I haven't talked to the person who wrote this and don't know, but I assume that's what they're talking about. There's a proposal to give, I think, $250. I believe it's a proposal to give it to people who are in the donut hole on the prescription drug thing.
I would have to take a look carefully at the proposal to make sure that it was sound, and then of course, you know, we have a budget issue in that we have so much debt that I'd have to take a look at that. I do believe, though, that if Congress can find the money, that it ought to help those folks, that we made a deal in the Social Security Administration to make sure that we had that system there. We have borrowed so much money from it in so many other concerns in so many other places in foreign countries that our country is now at some risk. And so it is difficult to say where we would spend each and every dollar that we have, because we now are in a position where we have to be very careful. But I think that our Social Security recipients are entitled to something like that, and I think we should take a look at the COLA as well.
All right. Again, I assume that Mr. Boucher and Mr. Heaton are not here to reply, so we will go on to the next question for Mr. Heaton. Mr. Heaton, the question for him was, would you promote nuclear power? He's not here to answer the question. Apparently he doesn't want to, so we will ask, Mr. Boucher's not here to give his comments. We'll ask Mr. Griffith to give his comments. 1 minute.
Yes, I believe it's important that we support nuclear. I think it's very important that we look at all of our energy sources and that we use them. We're an energy-rich country, and I think it's extremely important that we use all of those, including coal, natural gas, and petroleum from right here in Virginia.
The next question will be for, would have been for Mr. Boucher had he been here. Congressman Boucher, will you vote for the discharge petition number 11 to bring Obamacare repeal to a vote in the lame duck session of the Congress? Mr. Boucher is not here to answer that question. He voted against it to begin with, but I don't know whether he would vote for repeal or not, considering his party. He might very well, and we would hope that he would if he was elected. But since he's not here, Mr. Griffith, do you have a comment on that?
Well, my understanding is that he would not vote for repeal. Now, I can't speak for him, and he'll have to speak for himself. But I do know that an email was sent out in September in which President Obama was encouraging folks to donate money to the various campaigns, and that he needed Rick Boucher. In part, one of the reasons he needed Rick Boucher is because Rick Boucher would not vote to repeal his health care reform. So at least, he may be mistaken, but at least the president in an email believes that Rick has indicated that he believes Rick Boucher would not vote to repeal. I would vote to repeal.
Just so that we are absolutely fair on this, do you have the documentation on that in case somebody asks for it?
We do have that email. I don't know that we brought it with us this evening, but we can get that. Is that not correct? I had to ask. And for those who don't know, I can see a couple people up front, but because of the lights, I can't see everybody, so I can't see if somebody from my staff is nodding that we still have that, but I believe we did.
He's over here coming down for Morgan.
All right.
We do.
We do. Okay.
All right, so if anybody has any question on proving that, Mr. Morgan's campaign staff, I assume, will make that available. All right. Now, the next question, I presume, is for Mr. Griffith. Oh, did I miss that? Was it supposed to be Heaton next? Anybody been keeping count? Give me one for Heaton, then.
I'm trying to take all the questions.
You see, the whole thing about this is we're just common folks, and we're trying to do the right thing, and you're going to make mistakes, and that just happens. And by the way, that happens with politicians too. And you know, if Mr. Boucher, Mr. Heaton made a mistake in not coming here today, we have to forgive them for it. They're humans just like the rest of us. Okay, this is the question for this is a question got into the Heaton box, but it's for Mr. Griffith, so we'll give it to Mr. Griffith. What about the question of illegals working at VDOT?
Let me tell you that the state passed a bill to make sure that we don't have any illegals working at VDOT. Now, the question that came up from Mr. Heaton, he went out and he questioned some folks, and there was a controversy about whether or not some people that were subcontractors to VDOT had then hired illegal aliens. The company came back and said that they were workers under the federal law that could come in and that they were not illegal. I don't have any way of knowing. It is the governor's job as the executive branch of government to determine and to make sure that the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia are followed. However, responding to my future constituent, Mr. Heaton, I indicated that I would not only notify the governor's office of his concerns, that I would also take a look and see if we could get JLARC, Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, to take up this issue and see if there were any things in the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia that needed to be changed in order to make sure that we could assure the people that we were not indirectly contributing to the hiring of illegal aliens. I brought that to the attention of the executive director of JLARC, and on, I'm trying to remember what day it was now, earlier this week, JLARC agreed with my request, and they will begin to study to see if there is anything we need to change in the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia to make sure that we're not indirectly encouraging subcontractors to hire illegal aliens. So if it is a problem between the governor's office taking care of the laws that are already on the books and JLARC looking to see if we need new laws, we will take care of it. And as I said to one reporter yesterday, and that is being an effective legislator. I took care of it. I got the issue, a constituent made it, and we took care of it.
All right, this is the question for Mr. Heaton. How much are you in favor of the fair tax?
In
No answer from Mr. Heaton. Mr. Boucher will not have a reply. Again, apparently they didn't want to answer questions like these. And that's a tough question. Mr. Griffith, do you have a comment?
Well, and what I have said to so many folks, and I know there are a lot of supporters here tonight of the fair tax, I do believe that we need to simplify the tax code, and I think we have to go in and do something. It's so complex that we have, daily reporters and we have folks who are trying to figure out what the tax laws are. And anytime you make something that complex, you're not only going to have problems with people complying who want to comply, but at some point people just get tired of trying, and at that point it undermines the actual value of the law. That being said, I have not adopted that I would support any of the proposals that are out there. I want to look at them all, but we definitely need to simplify the tax code like we do so many of the federal laws.
Well, and considering that, I would simply ask you to remember that if the IRS is done away with, that means that the health care bill is not going to work, because the only way it works is by them taxing us more money if we don't get the bill. If I could have one from Mr. Boucher. Well, this is a question that really is rhetorical, I guess, because since he's not here, he can't answer it. And the question is, why is Mr. Boucher not here today? Since Mr. Boucher is not here today and can't answer the question why he's not here, I will tell you, from what I know, trying to be completely fair, Mr. Boucher did write us and say he couldn't be here because Congress would still be in session. And by the way, I did get a letter from Mr. Boucher, and Mr. Macbeth got a copy saying that. And I got it, I think, it was dated the same day as Nancy Pelosi announced that they were going to recess Congress. But at any rate, so then I called Mr. Boucher back and asked him to please come, since he obviously didn't have that problem. And he said, well, he had a preceding. I don't really know how he could have had a preceding engagement, but I won't get into that anymore. Mr. Griffith, do you have any comments on that?
I am here.
Now for Mr. Heath. And the question, why are you still in this race? We need, no, I'm not going to ask this question because that has to do with some political statements, and we are not political endorsement or anything of that sort, so I simply won't ask that question. And this is for Mr. Heaton. Where do you stand on term limits, yes or no? Mr. Heaton again is not here. Mr. Boucher is not here to give a reply, so I'll call on Mr. Griffith to give a 1-minute reply on that if he can do so.
I would have to tell you that I do favor term limits with a twist. And the twist is that I think we have to term limit not only the legislators, but if you're going to do the legislators, you have to do the top layers of the bureaucracy, because what we have found in the states that have gone to term limits for their state legislatures is that a lot of times the bureaucrats become so much more powerful because they can outweigh the legislators who are trying to make reform and take power away from the bureaucratic agencies. So you've got to do both.
All right, this is a question for Mr. Griffith. How does the U.S. create an educational system second to none for the 21st century?
That is a huge question. And I would have to tell you that I do think that we need to have standards for our educational requirements. That being said, I also think that you have to look at what the states have done. For example, in Virginia, our standards were very good as the federal government came in and did a layover with their No Child Left Behind. We felt like we were already progressing, so I think you have to give the states latitude to set up